Hi everybody, welcome to week 3 of this course. This week we're going to introduce something called the Novelli model. It is a model for content creation and a campaign creation that we'll be looking at throughout this entire course. It's a model that has multiple steps, and what we're going to do is each week moving forward, we'll examine one of those steps and talk about how it's being used or how we could use it to create good digital content moving forward. So what we'll be doing is this week we'll be talking about an analysis stage, and we will take a look at all of that and what that entails, and then we'll actually from this model then delve deep into that aspect, and we'll be doing this throughout the course moving forward. So in introducing this model, we will cover today why we would use a campaign creation model, why would we even use this kind of a structure, and then in moving more from the general to the specific, why would we use something called the Novelli model? What is it? What does it entail? How is it developed? And why have we chosen it? So first we'll cover why we use a campaign creation model in the first place. Why would we use a model? There are many great models for creating a content campaign. There's going to be countless models out there. Lots of people who use this in their profession or use a model in their profession will create their own model or base their model off of other people's successes or their own successes and failures in the past in conceiving and implementing a campaign. So what we want to do is we want to look at what's out there and see what produces a good result. That's why we want to use a model, because we want to solve problems and we want to think in ways that might not naturally occur to us if we were to go at this alone. Many people have created many campaigns in the past and have come up with many different ways of doing it, like I said. So when we use a model, a step-by-step model, that will allow us to base our brainstorming and our creation of the campaign in something that somebody has used before. We can always tailor it and improve it and put our own spin on it, but we don't need to completely reinvent the wheel because there are many different good models out there. We're going to focus on one particular model. It's called the Novelli model. And it was originally created for health campaigns. But what we have learned in the past is that we can, like I said, take and expand a model that's out there, give it our own spin, improve upon it, or just cater it to our own needs. So how was the Novelli model created, and who is Mr. Novelli, and why do we care about him? Here is Mr. Novelli. The Novelli model was developed by William Novelli. He is the founder of a public relations firm called Porter Novelli, and it focuses on social and nonprofit causes. But you'll probably find after you've read it that it's applicable to all sorts of campaigns. But how this was created in the past was this was used as the basis for many successful campaigns. Porter Novelli and William Novelli in particular created things like the USDA Food Pyramid campaign. They've used this for anti-tobacco campaigns and for HIV awareness campaigns, in addition to many, many different models. Now, this is going to be the model that we're going to use throughout this course, and each week we're going to devote our time to different aspects and different steps in this campaign model. So what we're going to do is today I'm going to give you an overview of this model and the different stages of the model. I'm going to keep it fairly basic, and what we'll do is week by week throughout the course, we will expand upon this and really go into detail and get a lot of practice in using something like this. What I'd love for you to do is figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and then cater to it, because what I actually have done in this course is, like I said, this was originally intended for health and social campaigns, social causes. And what I've done is taken a model on marketing in general or social marketing and expanded it to content creation on the web. So come up with different ways of using this. Think about this critically and see what you can get out of it and how you can tailor it to your own needs. So the Novelli model has 6 different stages. And like I said, what we're going to do is give an overview of these 6 stages, and that will allow you to see where we're going in this course and really give you a bird's eye view of what we'll be doing. Now, this is in the shape of a circle, and that's because the process for creating a campaign, a content campaign or a marketing campaign, is circular. The last stage feeds into the first in a continuous cycle of improvement. So we go throughout the entire process, we go through each of the steps, and then what we learn in each of the steps will provide information, pros and cons, benefits and mistakes, things that we can learn from to go all the way back to the first stage. So the 6 steps here are analysis. We need to first take a look at the landscape and see what's out there, what the needs are, who the people out there are. Ideally, we would go into this with some sort of concept of what kind of campaign we want to create, a problem that we need to solve. As we remember, one of the keys to good content is meeting a defined goal and trying to solve a problem. So going into this, we're going to have a problem in mind that we want to solve. So the first step is an analysis of that problem or the goal that we want to meet and who is a part of that, who is involved in this. The second stage is planning, creating a blueprint for what's going to come. Then in stage 3, we're going to develop and test and really refine our plan and our blueprint. And then we're going to implement it in stage 4, actually put it into motion and see what happens. Then in step 5, we're going to actually see how effective it was and judge its effectiveness. And then from that, in stage 6, we're going to create final feedback. And I'm sorry, not just necessarily final feedback, but just feedback in general for this one round. And then that will feed all the way back into stage 1 in the next round, or the next go around for this. So that's why you see that it's circular, and that is the Novelli model and its 6 stages at a very quick glance. We'll go into each of those stages and really what's involved in those now. So like I said, stage 1 is analysis. And there are 3 different types of analysis that we're going to do here. We're going to take a look at the market or the landscape. It doesn't necessarily need to be a business market. It can be a market in terms of the landscape of the problem of AIDS in one of your case studies, or what is the general landscape of the media environment, other daytime talk shows if we're looking at the Ellen case study. The second analysis that we're going to do is the consumer analysis. The consumers are the people who make up that market. They don't necessarily need to be buying anything, although when we talk about your case study like Zappos, of course they're going to be buying shoes. But it's really people who are consuming or using the content that you're creating. And the third analysis is the institutional analysis, or the organization and the structure in which this program will operate. So what is your organization? And what are the other organizations like yours out there, or other stores out there like yours? Or other shows if you're Ellen DeGeneres. So let's take a look at those 3. So the first step is to really define the market. And a market analysis is really taking a look at what is the current state of this market or this landscape, and then what is it projected to be like in the future. So, where does the money come in if this is Zappos? What is the shoe market like now? What is it going to be like in the future? And the idea here is to not just plan for the short term, but for the long term. We want to try to figure out what our competitive advantage is here. What are the attributes that are really going to make us successful now and in the future? So the first is the economic analysis. What is the future? What is the current and future size of the market? We also want to understand the trends and where we might find those competitive advantages. Then we want to look at the geography of where this is taking place. Is this something that's national? Is this something that's regional? What we really want to do is focus in here, and this allows us to figure out how we want to reach our targets. Do we want to target everybody in the world? Do we want to target people in just one city? We really need to define that, because that'll allow us to zone in on one area, and it really grounds us in reality. If we don't need to analyze the entire world, if we're talking about one small town or a city, then we just need to analyze that one region. So we don't need to go all too crazy with our analysis. We just want to make sure that it's relevant and that it takes place where we need it to take place. The third part of market analysis is that you want to get a sense of timing. Is this the right time for this kind of campaign? If daytime talk shows are just out and reality shows are in, then it might not be time to create a campaign for a daytime talk show. Market trends are necessary for even planning things like budgets. Is this market growing, or is it contracting? And it allows us to plan the extent of which we do this. So that's something to think about as well when we look at the market. And then we want to take a look at our resources. What that means is, what does the current structure look like for a distribution of materials, especially online? What might get into the way of that? So if we're looking at a nonprofit that caters to, say, a rural area, they might not have high-speed internet. So it's a big consideration to make, because it affects the ways that you're going to distribute content or create content. So if you were talking about a nonprofit that is towards, say, farming, a long YouTube video or a big interactive game might not make sense, because there are structural obstacles that would get in the way of people consuming that. So it might be a great game, it might be a great YouTube video, but if the people that you're catering to it for can't use it, then that's not really something that's user-centered. So you want to take a look at any obstacles or the resources that are around in this market. So that is a market analysis. Then what we want to do is take a look at the consumer. The consumer, like I said, doesn't necessarily need to be somebody who's buying things. It's just the person that we are catering towards, the person that we're making this, that would be consuming our content. We can call this the user. We can call this the target. But it's really just the person who is consuming our content, the ideal person. And then the more we know about them, the easier it'll be to get to the right thing that we want to reach them for. So we want to look at demographic characteristics. What's their age? What's their gender? How much do they make? What's their education and their literacy skills? What's their family size? What's their occupation? We want to look at these types of things, because the more we look at it, the really easier it'll be to kind of segment and motivate each specific target, because they will have different interests in mind. So we would cater to them to make a motivational statement or something like that that would allow them to feel more targeted. Novelli in his in the text that you looked at correctly points out, and this is really key, that one of the major problems that can arise in a marketing or a content campaign is a campaign that really fails to identify a target audience enough so that we can really research the audience and really develop an effective message or an offering to them and reach that target effectively and then also efficiently. So the second thing is we want to take a look at those geographic attributes for the consumer. Is this a small town, a big town? Those are things that are a little bit more traditional in a marketing campaign that might not necessarily make sense in a content campaign, but really make sense when we talk about things like advertising. If we are doing online advertising, we might want to look in doing ads in, say, the Philadelphia Inquirer. So we want to look at, are people using that, but then also how many of them do go to a website like that. And then we want to look at something called psychographic characteristics. And these really mean behavioral characteristics. So, what are their personalities? What's their lifestyle like? Is there something that they're specifically looking to benefit from? What's their usage of the internet like? Are they ready to use it? So let's go through those. Lifestyles and personalities are helpful for rhetoric and message. If somebody wants to, if somebody is a hipster, they're going to have a different message. They're going to want to be talked to in a different way than somebody who is a middle-aged person. So we want to know that because that will help shape our message in a way that really resonates with them. Benefits, what is their motivation? And that can really directly influence the kind of content and the kind of appeal we're making in that content. User status and usage rate, especially for online content, is this person an occasional user? Are they a daily user of the internet? Are they an hour by hour? If we know things like frequency, we can know, say, how many blog posts to make per week. Do we need to do things like a weekly email digest because they're only showing up online once a week? So that will influence things like our frequency of how much content that we create or how often we put that content out. So we want to take a look at that. So with readiness stage, are they, technologically, are they tech savvy? So for instance, is a smart phone mobile app good for the elderly population? They might not just be ready for that. So you might not necessarily want to do that. And then media patterns. Where do they go for information right now? Are there specific blogs that they go to? If you're trying to target moms, is something like the mommy blogger sphere something that you would want to go to pitch to? This helps us choose the channels that we can use to reach them. So that is the consumer analysis at a glance, and we'll go through all of that in the weeks that follow. And then what we want to look at is something called an institutional analysis. What we want to do is we want to look at our own organization or company, and then the other organizations or companies that directly or indirectly involved in that market that we talked about, that general landscape. So in our organization, what are the resources like? Do we have the staff resources to create a good content program? Do we have the staff resources to make something where we do something relatively simple and put out content on occasion? Or do we have enough staff resources and buy-in to create something that's very large scale? So what you want to do is take a look at that, and then you'll be able to figure out, like I said, the scale of that program. That way you can choose something that's realistic. We want to choose something that's not a pipe dream, that's really something that we can actualize and make happen. So we want to be very realistic in what our organization's resources are. The second thing is our organizational commitment. Does our company or organization want to do something like this? When I first started working in the public affairs area or the public relations area, kind of at the very beginning of Web 2.0, there were a lot of companies and a lot of CEOs that didn't back the idea of the internet or the idea that you should go and talk to people on the internet. It sounds a little silly now, but people were genuinely afraid of the internet. And so what we wanted to do at that point was, kind of wean them onto the idea of doing a content campaign, building trust. So we started out small and pretty simple, and then built these things up over time. So we want to see if organization is as well ready for something like this. How much are they going to commit to something like that? One of the case studies is Zappos, like I said, and the CEO there, he blogs and he has a Twitter account and he is out there. So that organization has a different commitment than, non-Web 2.0 companies or cases where I was talking about just a moment ago, where a CEO would be hesitant to put their name out there. So we want to take a look at the organizational commitment. And then we also want to take a look at other organizations, our competitors. or our allies even. What programs have they run in the past? What was the size and the scope of their programs? How did it go over? And what lessons can we learn from their campaigns in the past? And we can use things like case studies and white papers for data. We can use websites and we can use reviews of people who have used that content and see what people's reactions have been like. So we do that with our institutional analysis. And so from here, what we'll do is we'll take a look at how to go about all of this in video 2.